Welcome to LobbyComply Pod from State and Federal Communications, your source for lobbying, compliance, ethics, campaign finance, and election news from across the country.
Hi everyone, this is Hayden with State and Federal Communications. I am the Coordinator of Federal Compliance Services and DEI Initiatives. One of the things I'd like to talk about today is what I call DEI Fatigue. I have been thinking a lot lately about all of the attacks that have been going on as it relates to DEI in that space, whether it is teachers coming under fire for teaching what some call critical race theory, to the overturning of the affirmative action cases. I've been thinking about this a lot, coupled with the fact that I remember in 2020, right after the murder of George Floyd, all things DEI was basically the poster child of what the world should become as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and belonging and access and all those things. Fast forward to today, where I think that DEI is pretty much seen as something negative, something to be questioned, something to be challenged. And I started wondering, thinking about myself, and I'm like, wow, I'm in this space. I'm starting to get, not really burnt out, but I started feeling like, where is the fine line between those of us that are in this work, realizing that DEI efforts are not one and done, that oftentimes success or achievement or awareness or fill in the blank as it relates to DEI, oftentimes those efforts are not immediate. Those successes are not immediate. This is a long-term, lifelong effort. Where is that sweet spot between that and then realizing that the gains aren't immediate and the work is frustrating? And would you get to a point that you will become burnt out or fatigued? So I've been thinking about that a lot, and I'm not sure there's an easy answer to that, but I think it's important to just sort of realize that you are committed to this work, that it is oftentimes not immediate, but when you do have successes, they are important and they should be celebrated. One of the things I'd like to offer is just a few recommendations to sort of implement if you do find yourself suffering from what I call DEI fatigue. First thing is to always recognize and celebrate your wins. Know that, as I mentioned before, the wins aren't always immediate, but when they are, they're important to be celebrated and to be respected. So always celebrate your wins. The second thing I would say is, as I've mentioned before, this work is ongoing. The learning is always evolving and changing, and you're always growing when you're working in this field. So recognize that DEI can be a challenge. At the end of the day, you know why you're in this work, and you know that it's important to you. And so just continue to hang in there and remember that you're not alone. Allyship is important. Collaboration is important. And remind yourself that DEI work is ever evolving, life-changing, and ongoing. Thanks.
Thanks for listening to LobbyComply Pod from State and Federal Communications. For more news, visit LobbyComply.com. To learn more about how we can guide you along the road to compliance, visit stateandfed.com. LobbyComply Pod is produced by Joe May and John Sponarelli.